Hello Saber fans. Today I'm going to do something a little different and apologize ahead of time. This is probably going to be a bit of a longer video. I usually try to keep my videos under 10 minutes or so. This one might go a little bit longer just because I really want to get into the details between Ultrasabers and Crimson Dawn Sabers. As you guys may see on my catalog of other videos, I've done a ton of reviews of Ultrasabers. Throughout 2020, Ultrasabers has basically been my only company that I've really been looking at. Recently, however, I've gotten a few Crimson Dawn Sabers, and I really just wanted to compare them because there are a lot of very stark differences between the two. And first of all, I do want to say I like Ultrasabers. I know that there's a lot of kind of hate for Ultrasabers right now, or people who have had poor customer service or really long wait times. And I will say, from my experience, I've had about a dozen or so orders from Ultrasabers starting in December of 2019, and we're now in December of 2020. So, you know, I've got a good year of experience buying from Ultrasabers. Like I said, I've had about 20 orders or so, about a dozen, so about 12 orders or so. And with the exception of one order that took about 2 months, everything's come pretty quick. I know this Crimson Scorpion that, you know, has the V4 sound, this came in about 10 days. So that was a really good turnaround time. I've had one order that took about 2 months, but the majority of my orders took about 5 to 6 weeks or less. Like I said, this one was about 10 days. I think this one came in about 2 to 3 weeks, and this is just a simple stunt saber. So I've had really good experience. Before kind of coming up with this video, I did have a discussion with another YouTuber, Jedi Master Vega. I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description below. He's got a ton of really awesome content covering a bunch of different saber companies, a lot from Ultrasabers. He's actually got over 80 Ultrasabers. That's an impressive collection. And he was telling me that he has never had problems. He has had wonderful customer service. For someone to have that many orders of Ultrasabers and not have a lot of the experiences that are floating around the internet, I think that just goes to show that maybe not all the hate that's out there is warranted. You know, someone can't really get that lucky to have 80 plus Ultrasaber orders and still have great experiences with the company overall. But I will say there are some things that I don't like about Ultrasabers that Crimson Dawn Sabers does offer, namely price, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But I do want to say that this video is intended to cover the positives of both Ultrasabers and Crimson Dawn Sabers, and as well a few things that I think that really both could improve on. So let's get into, let's go ahead and get the Ultrasabers review over with. Because like I said, I'm going to do that pretty quickly. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the Crimson Dawn Sabers because I have a lot of other videos. I've done a full review of this saber already. And so let's get into some of the really cool things. So the hilt designs for Ultrasabers, they have a very large catalog, and I really like it. It's got a really, you know, a lot of different features. This one, for example, has a ball pommel. There's windows in these emitters. This one has the claw, and of course this crimson anodizing. So there's only a few sabers that have that offered on their catalog, but also this is a beast. This is a very large saber. You can see this is actually one of their initiates, and this is actually a bigger initiate. This is a fairly large, impressive saber. It's also pretty weighty. It's fairly heavy. I like that. One of the positives for Ultrasabers I like is the fact that you just push the button and it turns on. You don't have to hold it. I'll get to that in a minute when we talk about the Crimson Dawn, but you just turn it on, and to turn it off, you just hold it for a moment, and it turns right off. I really like that. That to me just seems more, you know, it's instant gratification. Basically, you turn it on, you do your sabering, and you hold to turn off. I really like that. Even the sabers with sound. Now, of course, to change the sound fonts on the Ultrasabers, you have to hold it while it's off, and it'll allow you to cycle through the sound fonts. You know, this is just a stunt saber, so no sound. And again, just you turn the button on and off, easy peasy. Now, one of the things that I will say is that Ultrasabers does have a lot of kind of, for lack of a better term, boring hilts that are, you know, this one's has a little bit more going on with it, but some of the earlier initiates, they'll have just kind of a cap pommel. They won't have these claws. It just kind of looks like a tube. I actually kind of like that because it allows for more customization. This is a saber, however, that I got from my wife, and she was looking at the catalog and she basically just wanted this out of the box. So there's really no modifications I made on this, but I like the grenade grip. I like the pommel. But let me take a look at some of the internals, because that's one of the things that makes it, that's one of the biggest differences between Ultrasabers and Crimson Dawn is the internals. You know, both companies can make sabers that look the same on the outside, but really what they have going on the inside is what's important. One thing that I'll note is that the male end is in the pommel and the female end is actually in the hilt. That's actually a notable difference with the Crimson Dawn sabers. They actually have that inverted, and there's a reason I really like that, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. But you know, the internals, a lot of people complain with Ultrasabers because, you know, you have to remove the pommel, you have to kind of tap to get the battery pack out, and I've put this is Velcro that I've kind of put on there to prevent from rattling around, but as you can see, it's just connected with a wire. And I have rechargeable AAA batteries that I had to buy separately for this. I know that's something that a lot of people really hate, the fact that you have to pull this out. It's just kind of attached with a loose wire. But I'll say, I've never had any problems with it. I've had dozens of, you know, over a dozen sabers with them, and actually probably more because a lot of them have been stabs. And I've never had any problems with the internals, with the exception of sometimes the LED housing. You can kind of see in there, and this one, it's in there pretty good. But I've had a few that it's loose and it wiggles, so you got to take the blade and kind of shove it in there to hold it in there. That's one complaint, but I haven't had any other issues besides that, so not really a big deal there. The internals with sound, I'm a little bit more skittish on, but I'm a pretty careful person, so. But you see, there's the speaker, and the speaker is just attached to the battery pack, so you have to be real careful to pull that out. But you see, there's the lithium-ion batteries. In this case, I like to keep spares to have them charged because I don't have the recharge port on these. You can get that for Ultrasabers, but it's a pretty hefty upcharge. So since I'm used to just having spares, one of the downsides of relying on the charge port, in my opinion, is that if the saber does start to go down on battery, and all you have is the charge port, you don't have a pre-charged battery ready to go, your fun's over. You got to put the saber in the charger and let it charge for potentially hours. So even on these guys that have the recharge port as a inbuilt part of every saber they sell, I still have a couple extra batteries, just because I want to make sure that if the battery is low, I can just swap them out, continue the fun as I charge the other battery. So let's see, I think that's what I wanted to kind of go over with the Ultrasabers. One other thing I'll mention is that these screws are 832 screws, and so you can get, like, the Custom Saber Shop has these a lot, these little thumb screws. I like that rather than carrying around the wrench. One of the things that I was a little sad about, but you know, it's not really a big deal, but the Crimson Dawn sabers are not 832 screws, so all of the screws that I had for my Ultrasabers are not compatible with this. And that works for the retention screws, even if you don't get the extra thumb screws. If you just, you know, you lose one of your screws or something like that, they're not compatible. So I do want to mention that. But you can get the screws for the Crimson Dawn sabers elsewhere. They're metric and they're M4 size. So I actually have some of those on this. So I've got a couple of these just because this one had a lot of the little retention screws, and rather than having just those holes all around, I wanted to give a little bit more aesthetic to that. But so they're not compatible. One other thing that I'll mention, and I might kind of re-mention when I get to there, is that the flash on clash for Ultrasabers is customizable. So this is a Guardian Blue, and I actually have a red flash on clash. I like that contrast. With the Crimson Dawn sabers, their flash on clash is always white. Now, for me, it looks like it always contrasts the color. So if I have something if I set the color to green, the flash that is white kind of has a purple tint to it, and vice versa. If I set the saber to purple, and then it flashes, the white looks green. I think that might be just a trick of my eye. Maybe I'm the rods and cones in my eye have gotten used to the color purple, so that when the flash white comes on, since white has all the colors in it, maybe there's overexposure in my eyes to purple, so I see the green more. That might just be me. Let me know in the comments below if you guys that have had Crimson Dawn sabers see that experience. But to me, it looks like the flash does contrast really well with whatever color you set it to. But with Ultrasabers, I think all their colors are compatible with white, but certain colors you can only get other colors with. So like if I had gotten this in green, I wouldn't be able to get a red flash on clash. I can get an orange flash on clash. And vice versa, this is blue, and it doesn't have the option for an orange flash on clash. Now you can do, one of the things that you can do with Ultrasabers is really upcharge your saber and just really throw a lot of money at getting all those features. They do have an emerald driver where you can actually plug the saber to your computer and play around with whatever color you want. Another color changing option that Ultrasabers has, and I've gotten one of these in the past, is that you can get an RGB saber that just has, instead of one switch here, you get 3 switches, or 4 if it's a sound compatible saber. And one switch is red, one switch is blue, one switch is green. So you can mix the colors out. I like that real time, being able to change over the emerald. The emerald driver to me is just way too expensive for something that you can't even change on the fly. You basically have to set the color that you want by plugging your saber into your computer and setting it that way. I'm not a fan of that. That's actually, I'm going to move on to the Crimson Dawn saber. So one of the things that really attracted me to the Crimson Dawn is the fact that all of their sabers are RGB color changing. So it doesn't matter what color you want. There isn't a color selection. Just like Ultrasabers, you have to select the color. With Crimson Dawn, every single saber that they sell is color changing. I'm not going to really demonstrate that too much on that, but let me get into this. So I mentioned with Ultrasabers that I really like that you just hit the button and turn it on. That's a downside to the Crimson Dawn sabers, because these guys have a hibernation mode, which that's actually a plus, because the lithium ion batteries in this saber will slowly drain over time. So if I have it displayed on the wall and I'm not using it, after a couple weeks, the batteries are probably going to go dead because there's a slight drain. The Crimson Dawn sabers have a hibernation mode, and so you have to wake up the saber. So you have to hold for 3 seconds. And I actually had that set for no sound, but you can see the switch is illuminated now. Let me actually set sound.
Sound.
So I want to get that to softer sound. So you've got volume controls. That's something that Ultrasabers doesn't have. It's unless you plug it into the computer and set the volume for your font. But this is actually a NeoPixel. That's something that Ultrasabers does not offer. And I've done a review on this saber as well. I actually don't like that this always sets to white. This one is in hilt LED, and it remembers the color. I like that. But all of the sabers, whether it's the in hilt or the NeoPixel, you can change the color just by holding for 2 pulses, and then holding again. And it takes just a moment, but so there you go. You see that it goes to the light blue, dark blue, purple, and then again to red, and then it'll go to green in a moment. And then you just press the button to set your color. So, you can get any color you want, and as you see, there's your flash. And it does kind of, to me, it looks like it has kind of a purple because it's green. Now, with the Ultrasabers, if I want to shut this off, I just hit the button, or I just press and hold for about a second. This you have to press and hold for 3 seconds. So, it's not as, quick in that terms. I would love it if you could set the settings on this to activate and deactivate much quicker on a one button. I understand why they don't do that though, because there's other settings. So like when I had the saber on, I had to hold for 2 pulses in order to get the color changing. If it was, as soon as I press and hold, the saber would go off, I wouldn't be able to do the color changing. So I understand the mechanism as to why you have to do that, but still, it's a long time to wait to kind of turn on your saber, turn off your saber if you really just want to go. But once you have it out of hibernation mode, you just one click and it's on. So that's not too bad. Let me hold it. So I'm also going to turn this one out of hibernation mode. So I have held it for 3 seconds to shut it off, and I'm continuing to hold for 10 seconds.
Power off.
And then it just had that power off. And so that, to me, that's a long time to wait to put it back into hibernation mode. I kind of wish that was only 5 seconds rather than 10. There's been a lot of times where I just wanted to pick up the saber real quick and spin it around and then put it right back on the shelf, and I have to sit and wait to put it back in hibernation mode. Now it will automatically shut off if it's on for a while. If you just have it kind of deactivated but it's still on, you put it on the shelf, it'll shut off on itself. So that's definitely a plus. Just a personal gripe of my own. But the other thing that Crimson Dawn sabers, they come with the recharge port automatically. So there's a lithium-ion battery set up in these sabers, and it comes automatically. So one of the things that I note with Ultrasabers is, so this saber I had to upgrade with sound, with Flash on Clash. I think those are really the only 2 upgrades that I did. Some of the color options are actually more expensive, like the regular blue was inbuilt, but if I wanted, say, an Arctic blue, which is kind of that light blue where it has kind of both blue and green diodes in it, that's an upcharge. So, Ultrasabers definitely kind of nickels and dimes you a little bit. This saber with all those features was just under $300. And this NeoPixel saber, so not even an in-hill LED, NeoPixel, color changing, sound fonts, recharge port, illuminated AV switch, $200. I can't stress that enough. I mean, I love this saber. It's definitely my prized Ultrasaber. But the price difference for what you get, I definitely think Ultrasabers needs to look into upgrading some of their pricing model, and maybe including certain things automatically instead of nickel and diming you. So I said this was just under $300. If I had added the Emerald driver so that it could color change and the recharge port, we're looking at $400 or $500 to match the features that this guy has. That's really my only gripe with Ultrasabers, is that their pricing. I've been priced out because now they have a competitor that has all those features for way less. Another thing I want to show is the internals. So, you looked at the internals, and I know this is a big deal for a lot of people. But first, before I get into the internals, let me talk about the couplers. So this is actually staff. This is 2 sabers. Kind of ignore this part as a modification I made of my own. So this isn't anything that Crimson Dawn does. I haven't fully reviewed this saber yet. That'll be a future video, but this is a staff, so it's just 2 of the same saber. And what's really nice is the way that they've done their couplers. So with Ultrasabers, if you order a staff, it comes with a coupler. I've actually done a review on some of the different couplers that they have. I can put a description of that in the description, a link to that in the description. But with some of their models, particularly the Shade, the Banshee, the Wraith, they come with this pommel. This is just the pommel that this Shade, if you bought this by itself, that's the pommel it comes with. And the pommel is double threaded. So it's the same on both sides. So these 2 Shades came with this pommel. So you just remove one of the pommels, which I've done. So if I wanted to do double or dual wield, there you go. But yeah, you just take one of the pommels off and screw that back in. You have a staff. You don't have to worry about getting a specific coupler or anything like that. But I will say one thing to credit Ultrasabers, they have a quick release coupler. Before I bought this staff, I actually sold my other one that had that. Really, that's going to be one thing I'm going to miss, because the quick release coupler action, is just fantastic. So I won't have that with these, but I think the fact that my original staff just had was just stunt, no sound, and these have color changing and all that, the sound options, I think it was a fair trade. But let me really quickly, so you see the speaker there, let me take a look at the internals. So this is another plus for Crimson Dawn, is that all of their sabers are modular. So with the Scorpion here, this is all one piece. This is all one piece right here on the Initiate. But with this guy, I mean, you've got the emitter comes off, the grip comes off, the pommel comes off. And I could actually take these screws off here and this midsection would come off, but I'm going to leave that on. But this is basically the Saber. This is all the electronics right there. You've got your LED, you've got your soundboard, lithium-ion battery, and speaker all in this. Now this is like a cheap plastic chassis, so certainly outside of this, it's probably not that much durable than the internals in this. But because it is inside the aluminum hilt itself, it does provide some protection and provides something for the internals to be in. And honestly, the fact that it's kind of a cheap plastic is probably good. It's the same reason why the outside of cars now are made out of plastic, because that's the part you want to actually get damaged if it gets damaged, because it protects everything else in the car. So I would liken that to this. So even though this is cheap plastic, if that cracks or anything like that, it's not hurting the electronics, and you can just keep going. Let me check my list. I think that's all I really wanted to kind of go over. Now, I talked a little bit about price. I talked a little about the pros and cons of both. And as you guys have seen in my catalog of videos, I've done a lot of reviews of Ultrasabers. I still like my Ultrasabers. I am keeping these. I really like the look of this guy. But I don't think I'm going to get any more Ultrasabers. And that's not necessarily because I don't like the Ultrasabers. I just think that they need to come up with either better internals, better features, better tech, and better pricing. To me, that's the most important thing, is the pricing. Why would I spend $400 on something that I can spend $200 on and get a NeoPixel? So to me, pricing is what's really done that. But I will continue to say Ultrasabers has some really good hilts. They actually, you can get stunt sabers with them, which I don't think you can do with Crimson Dawn anymore. I think they used to have that, but now all of their features come with that sound, that little inner core. Blades. Let me talk about blades real quick. So Ultrasabers has a couple different types of blades. So this is a thin wall blade, and this is a thick wall blade. This is also their Ultra Edge, and this is just kind of their standard. Now I sand the blade, so if I hadn't sanded this top one would be a little bit more like a mirror or like a reflective silver. But I like to sand it because it to me gives the same effect as the Ultra Edge, that kind of has that more full blade without kind of dimming the color. I know sometimes reds look a little pink to my eye when they're in this blade, but they don't in these just sanded. So that's Ultrasabers. Now they're thick wall blades. I don't know if you can see this because it's trans white, but there's like a real thick threading on the inside, like where they screwed it in. If this was a regular non-Ultra Edge blade, you would see that very obviously. So that's a downside, but with the Ultra Edge, you don't have to worry about that. I also like that all of the blade tips on for Ultrasabers are clear, or like this translucent cloudy, just because the light, since there's a mirror on the inside of the tip, having this be clear allows more of the light to come out and it looks more evenly lit. For example, to me, that seems a lot more evenly lit. blades that Crimson Dawn sells, and they, unlike Ultrasabers, where they have the thin-walled or the heavy grade. So the heavy grade is what they recommend for dueling. Crimson Dawn just sells the one. I think they have like maybe a 1 inch and then a 7/8 inch. All of Ultrasabers are 1 inch. I think most of Crimson Dawn, I think they're moving more towards all being 1 inch. But look at the comparison to this. This obviously looks like it's a trans white, so it's similar to the Ultra Edge. I'm not sure if you can see kind of the difference in the outer thickness of the plastic. So this one looks thinner to me, but this is dueling. You know, that's pretty, you know, it doesn't have the same kind of bend capacity as, you know, this thinner blade. So all of theirs are dueling ready. You don't have to worry about, you know, spending an extra $10 on the Ultrasabers to come up with the heavy grade. So that's another plus to Crimson Dawn sabers, is that all of their sabers are ready to go. Now they're all 36 inches. You can't necessarily order online to get a smaller one, but if you put it in your order notes, I think they'll cut it down for you to a smaller size if you like. But one of the things that I kind of wish that Crimson Dawn would look into is they have this, all of their tips, you know, even on my NeoPixel, is the trans, or more like the opaque white. It's slightly translucent, but it's nowhere near as clear as this one. And so no matter how bright the saber is, this always comes off as a dark spot. Like this is a tri-arctic blue. This is the brightest blue that we've got. And you can tell it's a little darker right here. And I think it's not too terribly bad, it's not too terribly noticeable, but I think the reason why to me it's a complaint is because I know that the clearer plastic exists. So if they just swapped these out for the clearer plastic, that problem would be instantly solved. But one of the beautiful things is you can always get Crimson Dawn Saber and order your blade from Ultrasabers or order it from the custom saber shop. I have a lot of day blades that I do that myself. I will say in the future, I think I'm pretty happy with the sabers that I have, so I don't really have any plans to buy any new ones, but if I was ever going to buy another one in the future, I'm going to go with Crimson Dawn. The other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that all of my sabers came really fast. This one came in 3 days. And this staff took almost 2 weeks, but I ordered it right before Black Friday. So if I had ordered it, you know, a couple weeks before or like right now, I probably would have gotten this one in less than a week as well. But I think they had a lot of orders to go through for Black Friday, so that's the only reason that one got delayed. I know this was a longer video than I've usually done, but for those of you that stuck through, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy. I hope this has informed your future sabering purchases, and you guys have a wonderful day.